fight on the landing ground.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is the Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. I'm doing a piece today on climate change, and by that I mean the Green New Deal. I'm going to play a little montage from Special Report February 21. Here's the piece.
Tonight we continue our week-long look at the Green New Deal, championed by self-described Democratic Socialist Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This evening we look at what would seem to many to be the heart of the matter, climate change. Correspondent Doug McKelway examines how the plan deals with one of the most controversial topics and the possible solutions tied to it in all of politics.
There is no fixing our economy without addressing the racial wealth gap.
For diehard skeptics of climate change, the rollout of the Green New Deal with its wealth redistribution and restructuring of the economy was a tip-off to an unspoken agenda.
You know, we always knew climate was a stalking horse for socialism, communism, totalitarianism, whatever you want to call it.
But even many Democrats who support a climate change agenda saw the rollout as absurd.
I've read it and I've reread it, and I asked Ed Markey, what in the heck is this?
If you just add up the promises there, it's clear it's unaffordable, and it's clear it's unrealistic.
Some hope that from the excesses of the Green New Deal, more moderate voices emerge.
The climate debate has been driven for years by the edges of each party.
Grumet points to the chair and ranking member of the Senate Energy Committee, both from poor fossil fuel states, both pushing for promising technologies like carbon capture and storage.
Till responsible people like, Senators Murkowski and Manchin and the Energy Committee start to really enforce against the edges, we will continue to yell at each other.
Others question whether there's any urgency at all, that the so-called 97% consensus of climate scientists is meaningless. Climatologist John Christie notes that the greatest scientific breakthroughs in history have broken with consensus.
I take a real hard look at climate model output and can demonstrate that these models are just too sensitive to carbon dioxide and that the real world is not spiraling off into some dangerous territory of climate.
Novelist Michael Crichton once suggested another solution. He looked back to the turn of the last century when people, quote, didn't know what a radio was, or an airport, or a movie, or a television, or a computer, or a cell phone, or a jet, an antibiotic, a rocket, a satellite, an MRI, ICU, IUD, or what IBM was.
He went on and then ended with, now you tell me who can predict the world of 2100. His point was that models only carry the present into the future, and that the creative genius of individuals who bettered life in the past will do the same in the future. Brett?
Doug, thanks.
So here's my question, and no one's asked this so far. Green New Deal. Where did it come from? So I did a small amount of research, and what I found was both disturbing and not surprising. You can look this stuff up yourself. I will put links on my site when I can. Now this is a long and winding road, so please bear with me. I want to paint a mental picture. Now this comes from Wikipedia. Now I know that's not the best source in the world, but you've got to start somewhere. And I'm going to take excerpts from that, which will take us in other directions. This is what they say. The Green New Deal, GND, is a set of proposed economic stimulus programs in the United States that aim to address climate change and economic inequality. The name refers to the New Deal, which is a set of social and economic reforms and public works projects undertaken by Franklin Delano Roosevelt in response to the Great Depression. That's where the name New Deal comes from. The New Green Deal combines Roosevelt's economic approach with modern ideas such as renewable energy and resource efficiency. A previous policy similar to the Green New Deal was the 2008 tax incentive for solar panels. This approach was subsequently taken up by the Green New Deal group, which published its report in July 2008. The concept was further popularized and put on a wider footing when the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, began to promote it. On October 22nd, 2008, the executive director Ashim Steiner unveiled the Global Green New Initiative that aims to create jobs in green industries, and it goes on about other aspects of it. But you get the gist. Now, what you don't know is it's got a sister organisation in Europe. In Europe, they call it a Green New Deal. In the United States, it's the Green New Deal, GND. In Europe, it's called a Green New Deal. Slight variation, very minuscule difference. A Green New Deal was a report released on July 21st, 2008 by the Green New Deal Group and published by the New Economics Foundation, which outlines a series of policy proposals to tackle global warming, the current financial crisis, and peak oil. The report calls for the regulation of finance and taxation and major government investment in renewable energy resources. And it goes on and waffles on about climate change and all the rest of it. But I just want to give you some people who are involved in this organisation, and you get a feel for what's going on here already, and I haven't even got there yet. Larry Elliott, economics editor of The Guardian. Colin Hines, co-director of Finance for the Future. Tony Juniper, former director of Friends of the Earth. Jeremy Leggett, founder and chairman of Solar Century and Solar Aid. Caroline Lucas, Green Party member of England and Wales and leader and member of Parliament for Brighton Pavilion. Richard Murphy, co-director of the Finance for the Future and Director of Tax Research LLP. Anne Pettifor, former head of Jubilee 2000, which is a debt relief campaign and campaign director of Operation Noah. Charles Secret, advisor on sustainable development, former director of Friends of the Earth. Andrew Sims, political director of New Economics Foundation. So bear in mind that these are the people that produced this report, and they're called a Green New Deal Group. This document was published by the New Economics Foundation, NEF. So we look at that organisation. The foundation works, this is a description of what they are. The foundation works in the areas of community development, democracy and economics. The foundations work on sustainability indicators which measure aspects of life and environment, indicated the connection between economic growth and sustainability from 1995 to 2000. The foundation made social audits of companies to measure and evaluate the company's social ethical performance according to its standards. This work was instrumental in the formation of the Institute of Social and Ethical Accountability to promote professional standards around social accounting and auditing. That sounds an awful lot like social justice to me. Now, earlier I made reference to one of those people, one of those contributors to the Jubilee 2000 campaign. I'm pretty sure I did. Yes, Anne Pettifor. Now, the Jubilee 2000 campaign strategized for and run by the NEF, the New Economics Foundation, which collected 24 million signatures for its worldwide petition on development and poverty. Local money flows. NEF has also developed a local money flow measurement program and enables the mapping of money flows through the local economy. NEF is also responsible for the Happy Planet Index. The foundation launched the Happy Planet Index intended to challenge existing indices of states' success such as GDP and Human Development Index, also promoting the 21-hour working week. In February 2010, the New Economics Foundation called for a gradual transition to a 21-hour working week. So you get a feel for what's going on here, I hope. All this is building to a little crescendo, and I've already mentioned it in passing and you didn't even hear it. In my mind, this is Agenda 2030 through the back door. Why am I making that point? Well, it's simple because you need to come to the logical conclusion that all these are part of Agenda 2030 and they're hiding behind all these local groups. But it's the UN which is directly behind all of this. This is nothing more than a brazen another brazen attempt to take control over not just American citizens but all citizens who sign up to this, either directly or indirectly. It should further disturb us all that the object of these organizations that hide behind charity status, they're all registered organizations run or funded by another registered charity organization. And when you drill down further, you get to what I consider to be the kernel, or what we think is the kernel at the moment. It's the funding behind this. And the funding should give you a clue of what's going on. The NEF, the New Economics Foundation, is a registered charity and it's funded by individual supporters, public finance, businesses, and international grant-giving bodies. Finally, do you think it's a coincidence that everything that brain-dead moron Cortez is saying and quoting comes word for word from this document published by NEF, the New Economics Foundation? So here's my question, and why hasn't this question been asked by the mainstream media? It's a series of questions, really, and they are these. Who are the individual supporters? What public finance? What businesses? And most importantly, who the heck are these international grant-giving bodies? Once we know that, then and only then can we begin to paint a picture of what or who these organizations who are behind this movement are. Now you have to give them the benefit of the doubt, don't you? And assume they are benign. But what if they're not? They are clearly working in more than one political jurisdiction, which suggests to me a level of organization and sophistication that not any one national party in any country could achieve by accident. I put it to you, it's almost like, I don't know, organizing. And that should ring a bell to every American. And that's my comment. You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, and email. You can now find us on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a Twist, and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on the links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all my morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio, that's EHRADIO, A Radio, and please click on the like button. And you can find all my podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com and click on the Morning Moments tab.